Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. My name is Joe and today I'm joined by Mark, aka the FPL General, to reveal his team for Game Week 20. We'll also look at his Game Week 19 score so far and look at replacements for Bowen, whose fixtures turn, and also he came off at coincidentally, the 59th minute mark with an injury. Could this be an opportunity for Mark to free up some funds, or will he spend more on this midfield place in his team? Welcome, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well, Joe. Good to be back for another video. I'm glad things are starting to slow down a bit in terms of space between deadlines. Now it's been very hectic. I always think the festive period is about survival. I don't tend to do very well over that spell, and I haven't done quite a few red arrows recently, which we'll talk about. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to getting out the other side and getting back to having a week between deadlines to make decisions. And yeah, Bowen, it was. I always enjoy looking at the player minutes each week and finding out which players have played 59 minutes for the podcast. But it's never fun when he's in your team and he could have took an extra 15 seconds to get off or an extra point. But yeah, here we are.
Yeah, I know what you mean about Christmas and New Year. We planned for it a little bit, get our benches, but last time we met, I had a bench score of 37, and Chris Wood is proudly on my bench this time around. So your bench, well, we'll look at it in a sec, is almost perfect for the lack of rotation so far. And my one, I've sort of overestimated the rotation. I hope some of my first team don't make it, put it that way. Okay, yeah, just before we carry on, do remember to press that like button, does help us out. And also remember, leave a 5-star review wherever you access our podcast. Also, do remember to subscribe, keep up to date with our latest videos and podcasts. And check out fantasyfootballscout.co.uk for offers for the members area. All the stats and season ticker and things like that we show in the show will be from there. So do delve in and help yourself climb up your mini leagues. Okay, let's have a look at your Game Week 19 so far. Got a picture of Mo Salah next to it, obviously, because he's got 32 points as your captain. And you got Chris Wood. You got 52 points. A red arrow currently, but you've got loads of players to go. So yeah, do you want to just sort of take us through your team and sort of how it fits in context of your Christmas as well? Because we were looking ahead to Game Week 17, I think it was, or Game Week 18. The weeks are going so quickly.
Yeah, so just a bit of context on the transfers over the last couple of weeks. Game Week 18, I brought in Bruno Fernandes for his red card, which was disastrous. And that had a knock-on effect on the plans because Game Week 19, I was planning to get rid of Bowen ahead of the Liverpool and Man City fixtures, probably for Ismaila SARR. So the Bruno red card continues to cause me pain, not just in that game week, but I get the 59th minute Bowen substitution off the back of that as well, having kept him. So I sold Bruno. I didn't have a bench to cover him. I could have played Mikalenko, but I didn't want to. So it came down to Anthony Gordon versus SARR, and I felt like I really liked Newcastle's next 6 fixtures. I liked how well they'd been performing in recent games, scoring, I think, 11 goals in their three previous fixtures. Gordon goes nicely with Isak, who almost everybody owns now anyway, so I wanted to get another piece of that Newcastle attack. And yeah, I just felt like I wasn't going to get Haaland soon. I probably wasn't going to get Trent soon. So I didn't mind spending the extra on Gordon over SARR. And SARR obviously didn't deliver, but he did look good again. And I might still end up there at some point. So yeah, the Bruno pain resulted in Bowen pain, and yeah, possible Bowen injury as well. So I feel like I'm just fighting fires at the moment, which is frustrating. I've only got one free transfer.
Okay.
So far this game week, finally got a goalkeeper clean sheet. I think I've only had maybe 3 or 4 all season. Alisson came in with a clean sheet, but then of course Trent decides to get a 15-pointer, which basically wiped out my gains on the Liverpool clean sheet. Castagna blanked, but that was fine because Mikalenko did as well. Captain Salah, easy pick, easy points, what a player. And then Chris Wood has set me up for at least hopefully a grey arrow, if not a green arrow this week, with the goal and the assist. So he's been in the team for quite a while. 4 blanks and 5 before this one, but again, just one of those steady eddies that you don't need to worry about too much.
Yeah, plenty of players to go. Saliba, Gabriel, Gordon, Bomo, Isak, Palmer. Yeah, so it's quite good that I sort of host these things because the way our strategy has gone at the moment, we're quite similar managers, but our strategies are very different. Obviously, our ranks are very different as well. But our strategy is different. As in your bench is pretty weak, and my bench is too strong. And so I'm just getting. I've got problems every week. So you mentioned SAR. SAR's currently on my bench for Game Week 20 as my first sub. He is at home to Chelsea, so I guess it's the worst fixture out of my front eight. But I'm gonna get bench points there. So how do you feel, sort of strategy wise, going forward? Well, I mean, I'll put your last four up. So I mean, you're currently on a red arrow, but you're on the you've had three red arrows before that. I mean, you're still doing really well in the rankings. You've gone from 25k to 44k, but you would like to turn those green. So do you think, like you were saying about the Bowen issue here, but if you had perhaps a stronger bench, you could just move one of those bench players in?
Yeah, I didn't go into Christmas, deliberately having a terrible bench. I don't really know how I ended up there, and I just never really had the transfers to improve it. And I've been lucky. I've been lucky that there hasn't been too much rotation. But I say I've been lucky. It's probably to do with the players that I pick for the starting 11 as well. That they're very much players that are almost always guaranteed to
Right.
start, and if they don't start, they're probably going to get minutes. So it's very rare that I actually need the bench. It was only really the week where the Liverpool game got postponed that I was in trouble that week. I think I maybe only got nine out. I think I still did okay, but yeah, it's not something I always advise people make sure you have a good bench for the Christmas, and then I didn't follow my own advice this year. And this is a good example. Last week if I had let's say if I had a Chris Wood or a SAR like you have as an eighth attacker, I probably would have kept Bruno Fernandes, just benched him for a week
Yeah.
and then had him back because the reason I got him was kind of game week 2021. So I don't know if I'll be able to get back there now.
Yeah.
And then this week again, if there's an issue for Jarrod Bowen injury wise, again, if I had an eighth attacker, I'd be able to roll a transfer. So it's not allowing me to roll, which I like to do as often as possible. But the starting 11 is fine because it is steady eddies that I don't need to worry about minutes. So it's working. I don't know how sustainable it is, and I do have some money in the bank now. I think I have about 1.7, or I will have after I make transfers. So I'm very much planning to at least get a better first sub. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's been the arrows have been red. But I always say I don't really like the Christmas period in terms of, I traditionally don't really rise much during that time. It's more about just trying to tread water and then get back to normal routine afterwards. So for me, I think I went from 19k to I'm 44 at the moment, and that can obviously hopefully improve this game week. I'm still very, very happy. I always say
Yeah. Yeah.
top 100k by the turn of the year. So, I'm about 50, 60k
Yeah.
ahead of that target. So yeah, no concerns, but the bench does need work.
Yeah, so it's top 50k. As I said, I think the optimal strategy is somewhere in between both of us. Is to have, as you said, a good first sub, but you don't need to go to town on it. So so for example, this week I'm probably going to bench Hewson for Bournemouth against Everton. I'm pretty much benching a guaranteed clean sheet and possibly a goal, which is annoying. Whereas I think you can do that happy medium with your team, just bumping up your first sub. So I don't know. Maybe Mikalenko is a good first sub, but yeah, maybe bumping Greaves up or Chiwomi just to something else there, and I think that would make your team almost perfect, almost.
Yeah. I think what's made it hard for me to improve the bench as well is the 3-5-2 setup because it's served me well. It's got me a lot of green arrows, but because there's Chiwomi as a 4.5
Yeah,
striker, it's quite a jump from a Chiwomi to a Vardy
yeah,
or a Joe Pedro. But if I was on a 3-4-3, like a lot of people
yeah.
are, you have Rogers,
Wow,
Ahmad, Enzo, Semenyo. It's much easier, I think, to have a a better eighth attacker if you're on a 3-4-3. So I,
wow.
I like the 3-5-2 setup in the starting 11, but it's made it harder to get a stronger bench, I think.
Well, I mean, this is your opportunity to perhaps change that. So you may go for this, you may not. So you've got Bowen at the moment. You want to remove him. You've got 9 million or so to spend. He's whatever he is, 7.23. I don't know what he is, Bowen at the moment, but he's under 7.5. But I've got a list of midfielders you could possibly get in, and a lot of them are much cheaper than Bowen, and they free up a lot of money, and that money there. So if you go Bowen down to say a 5.5 million midfielder or so, suddenly Chiwomi can become Jackson, maybe. Watkins. I don't know if you can go that far. You'd have to work it out, but you can certainly get a better striker there. But let's have a
Yeah,
look.
definitely something I'm going to look at. You'd either upgrade Chiwomi to a better striker, or there's also, a player I wasn't planning to get, but a 15 pointer always changes your mind. And Trent, losing Bowen money to put along with the 1.7 odd I already have
Yeah.
would open the door for something like that in defense as well. So, but I think I'd be more inclined to go down the Chiwomi upgrade route than the
Okay.
Trent route at the
Oh
moment.
well, that's a good then. So I've got what I've got. We'll look at the fixtures in a bit, but we'll look at these midfielders because that seemed to go with the flow of what you were talking about there. Because this is the choice you have now. This is actually a pivotal decision for you. Because so you could go from Bowen to say back to Bruno Fernandes, who's got great fixtures after Game Week 20. He's got Southampton, Brighton, Fulham, Crystal Palace, a lovely run of 4 there. So you could do that, and you could stick with Chiwomi, or you can move Bowen down to one of these another midfielder amongst those that I mentioned here, and then that would mean that Chiwomi can go up to a whole range of other strikers, and that may be something we discuss for next week. So I'll start with this list here. I've sorted this by just goals. I've started to do this by like just hard goals, the hard stats. None of I have included their minutes per expected goal involvement as well, and they're all pretty strong here. The top is Cliver. It's because is of penalties, but nevertheless he's on penalties in an attacking side. Bournemouth's fixtures are okay. They've got Everton at home, Chelsea away, Newcastle away, Nottingham Forest at home. Liverpool at home is a tough one, but then they've got Southampton and Wolves. So it's a mixed bag, but they've got some good fixtures there. Certainly potential for penalties, and he has other stuff. So he's only 5.5. So if you went from Bowen down to him, for example, he's got 38 points in his last 6 matches. His ownership's only 3.5%. His minutes per expected goal involvement every 100 minutes, but obviously that does include penalties. 4 goals, 8 shots on target, 10 shots inside the box. Yeah, he could be useful, but there's other names here as well.
Yeah, and Kluivert's a good one to throw into the mix because if I went with your idea of downgrading Bowen this week, I would need that replacement to play in my 3-5-2. And then the following week is when Chiwomi would get upgraded. So really, I would only
Yeah.
need this player for 1 week,
Exactly.
and then they're my first sub, or they're in a rotation with someone like an Mbumo or someone like that who's got maybe some trickier fixtures. So Kluivert straight away, good option. Like the penalty factor.
Yeah.
I still do like Semenyo as well, and I think it's not an easy call. I like how greedy Semenyo is. There was a very good example of it in the most recent game week where Ivan Nielsen and David Brooks were ready for a tap-in, and Semenyo went for a shot when he should have went for a pass.
Yeah.
He sees the goal and he shoots, which is attractive. I think he's got more shots than any other midfielder this season.
He has,
Not a
yes.
huge amount of goals, but he's an option. But yeah, Kluivert, I do like penalty takers. I do like the player. Suspensions behind him now as
Yeah.
well. So certainly in the mix.
Yeah. Another one, Murphy, 5.1, 42 points in his last 6 matches. He's only 3.9% of teams. You do have Gordon and Isak. Have you got Hall as well?
No.
No. So you could get Murphy in, play him this week against that Tottenham backline, and then he's your first sub, 5.1. He's created 11 chances. He's had 10 shots inside the box. He seems nailed on at the moment. He might miss the odd game, but he's got 7 attacking returns. I look at this and I think, why isn't he in my team?
Why? Yeah. Why isn't he in any team? I know his ownership's what 4% there, but I don't think I've ever seen him in a team. And I've enjoyed people debating, Enzo versus Ahmad to death over the last few weeks, and then every weekend, Murphy just pops up and says, "Hi, I'm Jacob Murphy. I'm better than both. Why don't you pick me?" So there's definitely some historical stuff in there. Murphy never really been a great long-term FPL asset, but he's certainly performing very well. And if I didn't already have double Newcastle attack, I'd be more open to it as a play this week bench thereafter. But I don't want to block a route to Lewis Hall because I do think he's a good option, and I might want to go there at some point.
Yeah. Next name is Diaz. So this is part of the different strategy. This is I'm just going to get a straight replacement Bowen and Chiwomi's just going to stay there on your bench. But this Diaz at Liverpool starts is the issue. He's had 4 in the last 6 matches, but we've seen what he can do. He's got 31 points there. He's got 4 attacking returns, 3 goals. 12 shots inside the box, 8 of those on target. So pretty much every shot there is on target, and most of those in the box there. His ownership, he's in a fifth of teams already. Yeah, if you were to, I mean, I don't know. Does a player like him make you think, I'm just going to get a straight Bowen replacement and keep the structure I've got?
Diaz doesn't do that for me. A couple of reasons. I'm always fearful of minutes. He does seem to be first choice at the moment and very much playing through the middle, which is very attractive, FPL wise. The other thing I don't like is I think, you've lost 2 of the good fixtures. Just, last week, 2 weeks ago was the time to get him. I know he didn't play the first one, but maybe personal reasons. Then he got his points against West Ham. Now it's Manchester United, which is probably good. And then Nottingham Forest away, which is not good because they're very good defensively. So I feel like maybe missed the boat on Diaz. The main reason though is I've got Alisson, I've got Salah, I've got Slot on my mind at some point, and I've got Trent on my mind. So I think both the manager and the right back are ahead of Diaz for me, which I still find very odd to say talking about managers, but we do need to keep that in mind.
No, I agree. And the next name on the list is one of the reasons I've sort of gone against that Diaz route. So when Saka got injured, I got SARR in. And I think, right, I need to use that money elsewhere. So I used the money there to upgrade Lewis to Trent Alexander-Arnold, which is a big upgrade. And it also leaves me enough money next week to do Cunha to Isak, finally. Even though, it's just a shield then for my team. It's just I can't stomach any more of his goals. So I'm using that money there. So I'm slightly biased in the opting for the freeing up a bit of money to spread it around a bit. And the next name is SARR. So he's the guy. He's already gone up. I don't even know what I paid for him because it's Christmas and there's this flurry of activity. He's 5.9 now, apparently. I don't think I think he was, don't know, whatever he was when I got him. But his ownership is still tiny. He's 5.4%. But around me in the rankings, which is around 200k, he's in a fifth of teams. So the further you go up the rankings, the higher owned he is. So top 10k, obviously, who might even be around that as well. But nevertheless, he had 4 attacking returns for 5.9. He has looked strong. It's a fixtures play as well. But he's had 12 shots inside the box, 8 of those on target, which is the same as Diaz. Bearing in mind he's a couple of million cheaper. And it's those fixtures. They're just golden until game week 31, I think. So they've got Chelsea next, and that's when I might bench him. But then you've got Leicester, West Ham, Brentford, Manchester United, Everton, Fulham, and so on, so on. And some of the videos I've done over Christmas have waxed lyrical about the Crystal Palace fixtures. But he's been number one choice, I think, in this category for a lot of people, hence his price going up. Would you go there? 5.9 still frees up significant sum of money for you.
Yeah, like I said earlier, that was the initial plan. If there was no Bruno Fernandes red cards, I would still own him and I would be on SARR now instead of Bowen. So I was just waiting for punishment in that Crystal Palace game. I fully expected SARR to get points. I feel, fortunate that he didn't. I'm also happy that Eze scored because it gives us another option, number one. But I also still believe SARR could be the better pick of the two. So I think maybe more that'll split the sales a little bit. People will be buying Eze now as well as SARR, which is good. And it'll keep SARR's ownership a little bit lower. I'm still very open to doing the Bowen to SARR switch, which I was planning to do last week. And again, great fixtures. Maybe not the best entry point against Chelsea, but I don't mind it because when I don't have Chelsea defensive assets and other people do, sometimes I like just going up against that, going up against Sanchez and Caldwell, etc., with my SARR and hoping he gets me some gains there over those managers. But yeah, SARR is probably still my favourite cheap in this price bracket. And it's very possible that that's what I do.
Okay. Next one is Bruno Fernandes. Just get him back in. He's got Liverpool next, but the fixtures after it are brilliant. He's got Southampton and Brighton at home. I'd be gobsmacked if he doesn't get points in them. And then he's got Fulham away, Crystal Palace at home, Tottenham away. Wow. And then Everton away. Perhaps Everton's the toughest. Yeah, I mean, would you just do that?
No, he needs I don't forgive him yet for what he's done. The red card -2, getting me the Bowen 59th minute substitution, and who knows what the knock-on effect will be this upcoming game week. So again, when I bought him, it was a long-term play. It was to get him in for kind of after the Liverpool fixture, Southampton, Brighton, Fulham, Palace, and maybe I go back there later. But again, he's annoyed me too much. Like I
Yeah.
said, it's not really a wouldn't be the optimal reason not to get a player back, but it's also because Manchester United are a complete disaster at the
Yeah.
moment. It's very hard to trust the team, regardless of how good fixtures are. I mean, is any fixture a good fixture at the moment for Manchester United? So I think I'll end up going cheaper than Bruno this time. And, for example, I would rather own a Trent or a Jackson or a Watkins versus a Bruno at the moment. So,
Yep.
make a transfer this week to free up money and then get one of those players that I mentioned next week.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just read out his stats as well. They're not as impressive as some of those other cheaper players as well. So he is in a 10th of teams, but probably a bit higher amongst engaged managers. He's had 29 FPL points the last 6 matches, 4 attacking returns, 2 goals, 2 assists. But just 5 shots inside the box. It's chance creation is his big thing, 14, which is the joint highest on this list as well. But yes, I think so. Gibbs White, he's a player I'm not seeing in any teams. Chris Wood, I mean, Chris Wood's in both of our teams, but Chris Wood isn't in many other teams, and people aren't going for Gibbs White. But he's got 40 points in his last 6 matches. It's like Murphy. It's like a blind spot. People can't see him. He's only 6.3. He's only in 2.2% of teams. He's got 5 attacking returns, 5 shots inside the box. So he's sort of on a par with Bruno Fernandes. And also, they're second currently in the table. Yeah, Gibbs White. What a differential Gibbs White is.
He has been sensational in recent games. I've watched a lot of the Forest matches, and he's been top class. Probably the most overlooked player in FPL, possibly, given those 40 points in recent times. And he's always been a bit of a tick along merchant, but I think that's been harsh on him. I think he's better than a tick along merchant. He's got goals and assists in him as well. Maybe he doesn't take as many set pieces as he used to, but from open play, the way they set up on the counter attack, he starts everything. He's either playing out wide to the wingers in Alanga or Hudson-Odoi when he's playing, and he can play off Chris Wood as well. And when he gets a chance, he took his goal really well. Like lovely little cut back in and a good finish. So definitely on my radar. Again, when I compare, do I want a Bruno Fernandes for 2 million more who plays for a much worse team, or do I want a Gibbs White who is the engine of the Nottingham Forest team who are sitting second in the league? And I do like double ups in attack. I've gone for Gordon Isak. Chris Wood's been great for me, and I do like the idea of adding Gibbs White alongside Chris Wood and hoping they, bounce off each other in terms of goals and assists. So, yeah, Gibbs White's on my radar as well.
Okay, Gordon's next. He's already in your team, so obviously you're not going to get him in. But I'll read out his stats as well, because those without him, but people like me, for example, don't have him. He's 7.3 now. He's got 36 FPL points in his last 6 matches. He's in amongst engaged managers will be higher than this, but he's in 13% of overall teams. Minutes per expected goal involvement every 160 minutes, which is on a par with sort of Gibbs White as well, and Fernandes. He's had 5 attacking returns, 2 goals and 3 assists, 10 shots inside the box as well. So he's adding a lot of goals to his assist potential, which he was sort of famous for last season. But yeah, so yeah, a good purchase in your team there.
Yeah, we're recording on Monday before Newcastle have played Manchester United. But again, I'm expecting points from Gordon. I would like a Manchester United win and Gordon points and Isak points. It's hard. It's going to be hard to get all of that, but hopefully it can somehow happen. And then the reason I got Gordon was the next 6: Manchester United, Tottenham. I like both of those fixtures for attackers. I think of that Tottenham game, the way Tottenham defend with no defenders, the way Newcastle have been playing, that could be 5-5, hopefully. And then Wolves, Bournemouth, Southampton, Fulham. So Gordon's very much a 6 game week at least pick. Hopefully no injury or suspension.
Okay. Next name is Fernandes. Both you and I didn't go for him. He was quite a bandwagon. And I personally got Palmer and Jackson. I don't want to triple up on. I don't love them that much. They've got 33 FPL points. Enzo Fernandez. He's in 10%, 1 in 10 overall teams. His minutes per expected goal involvement not as strong as many of the others that we've already mentioned. In fact, he's the worst so far with every 222 minutes. But he has got 2 assists and 2 goals in his last 6 matches. He's created 14 chances. And he's had 5 shots inside the box as well. All of those on target. So he's in the right place. He's good at shooting. And his chance creation is very strong as well. But yeah, I mean, yeah, he's another name you could go for. I mean, it would fit with that sort of structure where you can spread a bit of money out. You can look at getting Trent in. You can look at getting Chiwome to a more effective striker.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier about Chiwome to Jackson. So while you've been talking, I've been having a look in the background. If I wanted to get Jackson Game Week 19, Game Week 20, which I think is the perfect entry point because the Game Week 19 rotation concern will be behind us. The yellow card risk will be behind us. And Chelsea at that point go to Bournemouth, Fulham, Bournemouth home, Wolves home, Man City away, West Ham home. And it continues.
Yeah.
Fixtures are good. But if I want to go Chiwome to Jackson, my Bowen replacement this week would have to be 5.3 million or less. So it would be Enzo or Murphy from this list.
Okay.
And I think I prefer Enzo. So it might be
Okay.
to get Jackson, he comes as a pair with Enzo to join Palmer. And again, I'm not overly keen on the triple up, but Enzo would be very much an 8th attacker in that, basically Chiwome's becoming Enzo in my setup, which I like. Obviously, Enzo's 100 times better than Chiwome because 1 point is 100 times better than 0 points. So that's attractive, and I haven't been on Jackson at all this season, and he's been fantastic, and I like the fixtures that are coming. So maybe Enzo comes in this week to pave the way for Jackson the week after.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, that's a good sort of a strategy for anyone watching and listening to this is to look at your team and. If you've got like a replacement somewhere in your team, maybe you're going to replace Cunha or whoever, and you've got to look at advanced moves, look at what you're going to be doing with it. So the FPL planning tool, Fantasy Football Scouts app, is quite useful for that. To look at where you would use that money and how much you've got. So, for example, if you went for SARR now, who I think is probably the best one here out of those sorts of players, around the 5.5, under 6 million. It would actually lock you out of getting Jackson in. And so that's quite an important consideration. So you get a far less effective striker, maybe. It's a good piece of advice, really, for anyone watching and listening. Next name is Rogers. He's 5.5, got 30 points. I can't remember when I got him in. Or maybe I got him in at the start. I can't remember. He just seems to have been in my team forever. Maybe he has. But he's in a quarter of teams overall. I'm not getting rid of him because he's usually my first sub. But annoyingly for him, he's got quite good fixtures at the moment. So he's got 3 attacking returns. He seems an ever-present. His baseline bonus is strong. He's had 6 shots inside the box, created 10 chances. Aston Villa's next 2 are absolutely brilliant. So, I mean, obviously at the moment, he's got playing my team, Brighton, this week, Game Week 19. So I'm fielding in them. Game Week 20 as well. He's at home to Leicester. That's the time. That's a good time for Rodgers. Everton away, maybe not. Arsenal away, that's not so good. Bench him then. And then you've got West Ham at home, Wolves away, Ipswich at home. You can play him again. So he's a really good for a rotation. Annoyingly for me, the players I'm rotating with, like Chris Wood, are scoring as well. But nevertheless, yeah, I mean, he's just like the old favourite for this. He's the poster boy of the 5.5 million midfielders.
Yeah, and this is an opportunity for me to go back there. I think I lost him on possibly the Game Week 6 wildcard. Maybe it was later than that, but I did lose him quite early.
I think it was around the time you got Salah in for when Haaland left and Salah came in.
Yeah,
around that time.
Yeah, you might be right. I think Rodgers did go along with Haaland for Salah Cunha, the famous double transfer. So yeah, it was later than that. It was probably around Game Week 10. So again, I look at these fixtures. Game Week 20, home to Leicester. That is perfect for my approach if I decide to go down this Bowen out approach with
Yeah.
a upgrade the week after. I bring Rodgers in, he plays Leicester at home, I start him, and then the week after I get a new striker, and he is my eighth attacker. And I love Rodgers as an eighth attacker. I still think he's
Great.
arguably the best one. You know, gets the minutes, can score against anyone, really good player. I know Villa have been a bit dicey this season, but we might see an improvement second half of the campaign. And yeah, he's just, I think even Duran being out for a few games makes him even more secure for minutes. I know they're not
Yeah.
obviously direct, competitors, but Rodgers plays. That's the beauty of Rodgers.
Yeah.
He's cheap. He's still very cheap, even if you didn't go there
Yeah.
early. So yeah, this is the first time I've thought about him in quite a while. And if Bowen does have an injury, and I might sell Bowen anyway, even if he's not injured, because it is Man City and West Ham are just again, a bit like Manchester United, a bit of a disaster. Managers under pressure. Yeah, I think it's going to be a tricky choice between these cheap guys.
Yeah, and Bowen's fixtures, they've got that Man City, but they've also got Aston Villa, Chelsea, and Arsenal. Right up until game week 26, they've got a few good ones, but their home games against Fulham, Crystal Palace, Brentford's a good one, but
I don't like them fixtures. No.
It's not. They're not great fixtures. Next name's Odegaard's 8.4. He's what you would do if you didn't do the upgrade Xiaomi strategy. A lot of people went for him. I personally didn't. But Arsenal are yet to play. He could do really well, but the assumption was with Saka out, Odegaard would step up. That didn't happen in the last game. That could happen in the next game. But I personally, if I was to get him in, I'd wait until I see evidence that is going to happen. But he's in 7.2% of teams overall. Created 11 chances, got 7 shots inside the box, 4 of those on target. He's 21 points. But yeah, on current evidence, he's not competing, but it's more sort of future projection, hope that he can benefit FPL wise from Saka's injury.
Yeah, going back to when I bought Bruno Fernandes, I was extremely close to getting Odegaard instead. And now that I've gone Bruno to Gordon and freed up a good chunk of money, I don't want to go and spend it again because my squad needs investment elsewhere. That's the way I'm looking at it. So I don't think I'm going to go back to Bruno. I don't think I'm going to go to Odegaard. I really like the idea of going cheaper this time. When I think about Odegaard as well, I've got Saliba and I've got Gabriel. I think I'm more likely and more interested in triple defense than Odegaard or Jesus or any of the other midfielders. I've got the double Arsenal defensive set up with either Castagna and Mikalenko. But there's cash available now. If I go cheaper with my Bowen replacement, then Castagna or Mikalenko or Greaves, probably Greaves could become a Timber, for example, which I like a lot.
Yeah.
And just play 3 Arsenal defenders every week, which is probably as good a chance as any of getting points in this game this season. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to go Odegaard, but I won't rule it out yet, and I'll watch him very closely in the Wednesday fixture.
Yeah. And final name to mention is Eze. He's sort of neither one nor the other. He's not going to free up. He's going to free up money, but not as much money as you need. And he's not as pricey as some of these others. And SAR arguably is more attacking. So SAR is minutes per expected goal involvement every 188 minutes. Eze is every 266 minutes. In his last 6 matches he's played. He's on 23 points. SAR's on 33 points over that period. His ownership's very low, but it will go up after that goal, obviously. He's only got 2 attacking returns. SAR's got 4. And he's had 8 shots inside the box. SAR's had 12. Everything points towards SAR being a better option than Eze in FPL.
Good example, I think, of analytics versus grass managers like us that we're watching the games and we're seeing what SAR's doing and we like him more than Eze. Last week, despite blanking for ages, a lot of analytics managers went for Eze. And I still think it's a close call between the two, but I like the cash saving on SAR. Eze doesn't have a 100% penalty share anymore. He probably has less than 50% with Mateta. He doesn't take as many corners as he used to. But there is no doubt that when I think of Eze versus SAR versus Mateta, who's the best footballer? It's Eze.
Yeah.
He's got the X factor, as we've seen with his goal. Just pops up and sticks the volley in the back of the net, whereas not everyone can do that. So it's it's good that we have the SAR versus Eze debate now. I'm glad Eze scored and SAR didn't, because it makes it a harder decision on recency bias. But I'm still of the, I've been watching SAR for weeks, doing what he's been doing, and he did it again against Southampton. Again, I think owners were unlucky. There was some really good saves, one in particular, I think, from Ramsdale to deny SAR. And I'm still in the SAR camp. And what's that? An extra 0.7 million to spend. So I just think when there's in this kind of scenario, is there a chance that SAR, let's say over 6 game weeks, can he outscore or match Eze? And if the answer is yes, I'll go for the cheaper player.
Okay, I was muting myself there because my washing machine downstairs has decided to go absolutely crazy. So apologies if you can hear a sort of low washing machine buzz in the background there. Yeah, I'm with you with that. Well, I mean, obviously I'm definitely with you with that. I've got SAR in my team, not SA. So that's the way I've gone. Let's have a look at the fixtures, because we've been mentioning a lot of them, and it's good to get them on the screen here. So I've got from Game Week 20 to 26. Got this from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. I've sorted it by difficulty, so we can see who the teams to target are. But it also shows that there are certain teams that during this period are quite good. I've also gone up to Game Week 26, because at Game Week 24 or Game Week 25, we think Liverpool and Everton's game will be rescheduled. So, for example, for Liverpool, that would give them a potential double of Bournemouth and Everton, or Wolves and Everton. And also it means that you could perhaps use the assistant manager chip, which takes up a slot from one of your teams for slot, and so a slot for slot, and you get him for a double and a very favourable next fixture. And then they've got Man City, and you could perhaps move the assistant manager chip to a manager with a better fixture there. Areola, home to Wolves, perhaps. Maybe you could go for Van Nistelrooy at Leicester at home to Brentford. And if there's a 5-place gap between them, you could, and they win, which is possible, you could get a lovely 10 point. I'm putting this. I can see. I'm putting the seeds of thought of that thought in your head there. But that's what this says to me. I'm starting to plan already for that Liverpool double and the assistant managership, because you already used my triple captaincy, and so have you. But that's my key takeaway from this.
I was smiling there because I got nostalgic thinking about FPL days gone by when Van Nistelrooy was up front of my team for Manchester United. I didn't think I would ever get to pick him again, so maybe I'll need to go back there.
Yeah, that could be good. These over from Game Week 20 to 26, Fulham atop, Ipswich, West Ham, Leicester, Manchester United, Newcastle, Nottingham Forest, Crystal Palace. For attackers, the Nottingham Forest game looks the toughest. For defence, maybe the Newcastle away game looks the toughest, so it's a pretty strong run. Southampton's good, and they've stopped being silly billies at the back as well. They've got Brentford at home, Manchester United, Nottingham Forest, Newcastle, Ipswich, Bournemouth, Brighton. Some good fixtures there. If they're going to turn it around, this is the fixture run to do it. Crystal Palace, this is why people are going for them. They do have Chelsea at home next, but then Leicester, West Ham, Brentford, Manchester United, Everton, Fulham, and you can keep going until Game Week 30, 31-ish as well for that. Everton's fixtures pick up a little. Bournemouth, Aston Villa. So lots of bench points for Mikalenko for me, and everyone else who benches him as well, because no one ever plays him. Tottenham at home is maybe tough for him. Brighton away, Leicester, Crystal Palace, Manchester United. Arsenal's fixtures, they've got Tottenham and Man City in the mix, but they've also got Brighton, Aston Villa, Wolves, Leicester, West Ham. So your triple up at the back might not do so well in a couple of those games, but would do well in the majority of those games. Aston Villa's fixtures are really good, and handily for those with Rodgers or perhaps an Aston Villa defender, there's a scope to rotate there. Arsenal away, Game Week 22, Chelsea Game Week 26, you wouldn't want to play them, but a lot of the other fixtures are really strong for Rodgers. Brighton's fixtures are mixed. They've got Arsenal and Chelsea. They've also got Ipswich, Everton, Manchester United, Nottingham Forest, Southampton. Newcastle are sort of mid-table because they've got Tottenham away, but that's actually a really good fixture for Isak and Gordon. And then they've got Wolves, Bournemouth, Southampton, Fulham. Tottenham themselves have got a nice bunch of fixtures, really. They've got Newcastle and Arsenal, but then they've got Everton, Leicester, Brentford, Manchester United, Ipswich. That's possibly the time to invest in them as well. Chelsea's fixtures are really strong. Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, Wolves. They've got Man City in the mix there, so that's considered a tough one. But arguably, I think these colour codings need to change slightly. Manchester City is no longer a tough fixture, and Nottingham Forest is now a tough fixture. And that's how we got it. And then so on. So Wolves, Man City themselves, West Ham, Ipswich, Bournemouth have the worst fixtures, although Bournemouth are sort of hop on, hop off. Got Chelsea, Newcastle, Liverpool. But they also got Everton at home, Southampton away, Wolves at home as well.
Yeah, so first thing that I see here is West Ham near the bottom. When I bought Jarrod Bowen, it was very much a 3 week 3 week decision. He's been there for 4 weeks now because of the Bruno situation. So even if he's fit, chances are I'll just let him go anyway, ahead of the Man City game. Although I do like that fixture for Bowen if he's fit.
Yeah.
But I think it's time to free up some more money with some future plans in mind. Top of the ticker, Fulham. I still like Raul Jimenez, even though the minutes are always a bit scary. He just keeps doing it. Another great header in Game Week 19. Good fixture. Southampton, despite the good ones, I'm not really interested. The only thing with Southampton that was piquing my interest was a possible exciting move from Chiwomi to Paul Onuachu. But I think I need to do something more productive than that. I'd rather, a midfielder, I think, as my eighth attacker rather than Onuachu. Crystal Palace, yep, that's why we're looking at SARRs and Ezes and Matetas and Munoz. I don't have Munoz yet. I'm happy to wait until after the Chelsea game, but again, I don't want to go too long without Munoz. I think he's arguably one of the best attacking defenders in the game again. Everton, I've got Mikalenko. I'll keep him long term. They're going to have a double game week at some point. I'll use him then, and I might use him at some point when fixtures are okay at home in particular. Yeah, I look at the Arsenal fixtures there, and there's probably enough to put me off triple defence. Brighton, this game week that we're currently in. Tottenham score goals, Villa score goals, Wolves improving, Man City. Yeah, it's probably not the ideal time to be on triple defence. I'll probably stick with double, and maybe just stick with two Arsenal rather than getting a third. And again, just maybe leaves the option open of Arteta at some point for that assistant managership as well. So yeah, fixtures again. I think I'm on course. Lose Bowen, get someone higher up this ticker, and then next week we'll talk more about strikers probably.
Yeah, definitely. My video this week, I'll be talking about strikers as well, because I'm in the market for a new striker, and I just want to sort of do a sanity check over the last sort of 10 weeks or so. Who are the best strikers? I think we already know one or two of the names, but there's some other names in the mix there. So that'll be something I'll look at on my video. Before we go, let's have a look at, because we talked about pretty much obviously been talking about your moves for next week. So this just sort of sum it up really. Do you want to just quickly go through your team for Game Week 20 and sort of where you are at the moment with that transfer for Bowen?
Yeah, so still quite a few games to go in Game Week 19, so I won't be firming up my thoughts too much until, later in the week. But currently looking at Alisson in goal, double Arsenal defence, Saliba, Gabriel, Castagna at home to Ipswich, which looks good. Captain Salah against Manchester United, Gordon, Bowen, Mbeumo plays Southampton, which is great. Cole Palmer away to Palace. Up front, Isak and Chris Wood. Quite happy with those two up front. Then the bench is Valdemarson, who probably going to get some games now, which is nice. Mikalenko, Greaves, and Chiwomi. So one free transfer, 1.7 in the bank. Probably on current information, Bowen goes down to somebody cheap. I'll need to decide if Jackson is the player that I want next week. And if he is, it's probably Enzo or someone in a similar price category to Enzo that comes in. And then the following week, it's Chiwomi upgrade. And I finally have 8 attackers that I can rely on. So, but there's a few names we talked about there. Rodgers, those fixtures jumped out at me. I like him as an 8th attacker over the long term as well, and a few others. So, yeah, I'm sure the way my last couple of game weeks have been going, that something else will go wrong in the remainder of Game Week 19 that might change things. So, hopefully not, and hopefully things are a bit more straightforward over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, my aim, as well as what potentially yours is to have a front three of Isak, Wood, and Jackson. I'm 2/3 the way there, and
so it just sounds good.
Yeah, I think it is good. So are you there? Yeah, excellent. Thanks so much for checking in. Game Week 20 is this. I don't when is it? It's this weekend. It's like a normal weekend almost, but there possibly will be a little bit of rotation still. And a bit of aftermath over Christmas. You never know. People, it's sort of the game week where people have like surprise illnesses. they turn up to training with a cold and the manager sends them home. It's that sort of week, I think. But good luck with whatever decision you make, and good luck for those the decisions you make for those watching and listening. We'll be back not next, but no, we will be back next week. But game week, ahead of game week 21, it'll be a sort of that'll be a sort of a catch up time. And we'll come up with some good content for that as we sort of look ahead to Game Week 21 and beyond. We'll probably talk a little bit more about those fixtures and assistant manager chip and all that sort of planning as well. So take care. See you soon.
Cheers all.